Okay, so I'm here, I'm going to try this again, but first, wait. What should we say? I suppose I'm going to mention these notes that I've written, just in case while I look at each of the levels of World 1, I end up mentioning these topics, but what I don't want to do is when I mention them, end up talking about them and getting sidetracked, because that's what will probably happen. So I would like to mention them now. So one of the things that I've listed is being airborne and momentum. And being airborne when you can't press the A button to jump is really important, because there are a number of actions that you can do while you're in the air to either increase your vertical distance or to maintain your vertical distance, i.e. keep you at the same level of altitude, I suppose. Also, if you've built up any momentum, you can use that to sustain whatever speed that you're traveling at horizontally. So if you are sprinting, as you become airborne, you'll be traveling, if not at the exact same speed, relatively around the speed that you are sprinting at. So if there's a gap that's quite far away, traveling at a higher speed can help once you become airborne, because then you get closer to clearing that gap without having to jump to clear it instead. So being airborne is quite helpful, and having a lot of horizontal speed, as much as you can get really, can also be quite helpful. Next up I've written is the spin attack. Now this only applies to Rosalina, but as I have used Rosalina the most while testing what can be done without pressing the A button, the spin attack is a tool that's going to come back again and again. What the spin attack is good for, again when you're airborne, is it actually gives Rosalina vertical speed. So that allows Rosalina to travel higher up in the air than anyone else can, which is great for covering gaps that you would otherwise need to jump for. It's almost like you're jumping, but you're not pressing the A button to jump. It's not what I might call an A button jump, which I might briefly touch on now, because there are a couple of different functions that the A button will have in the context of a jump. But I guess the only one that's relevant for World 1 is, I'm trying to think, yeah, I think so, would be just jumping. Getting a jump from the A button is different to getting vertical speed from the spin attack, for example. Or let's say you're climbing a wall with the super power. When you get to the end of the wall, you do pop up a little bit. That's technically a jump, but it's not a jump caused by pressing the A button. Also in that category are wall kicks, because you have to press A to activate it. You have to press A for the character to perform one, so that's, I guess I'm grouping that as an A button jump. But spin attack, it's like it functions as a jump, but you're not pressing the A button to use it, so it's quite nice. I guess the problem is you don't unlock Rosalina at the start of the game, so if you're playing from the beginning, any of the tricks that Rosalina can do, you won't be able to help any of the other characters do them because they can't use the spin attack. The spin attack, as well as giving Rosalina vertical speed, it also helps to maintain her horizontal speed, as well as allowing her to move a bit more freely while she is in the air, so she can change direction a bit easier with the spin attack than if she was to just fall freely. So the spin attack can help just with general airborne movement. it also has what I'm going to describe as an extended interaction hitbox. So what I'm describing as an interaction hitbox is the, I suppose, hitbox that the character has in order to interact with other objects, such as green stars in particular, and stamps. If Rosalina is too short, I guess, to reach a green star, or if it's a case where, in other words, the green star is too high for Rosalina to pick up, and there's no way for her to become airborne in order to pick it up by falling onto it or into it, she can extend her interaction hitbox by using the spin attack. Describing how it works, not really sure if I can do that, but it's like Rosalina's touching the green star, but she's not. It's just like a force field around her created by the spin attack that allows her to pick up the green star if she's below it. Now it only goes so high, so there may be some green stars and etc. that she cannot pick up using the spin attack, but it can provide an extended interaction hitbox in this way. I've also noted this technique that I've described as spin attack into power up, which is, it's described in that way because I seem to find it funny when people say something into something. So let's say we're talking about Super Smash Bros. And someone says this character used a down tilt into forward aerial. They won't say down tilt into a forward aerial, they'll say down tilt into forward aerial. Or what would that, I don't know how they say down tilt using acronyms. I really like the forward aerial one because it's just fair, F-A-I-R for air, forward aerial. So it'd be down aerial into fair. I like the word fair. I like the acronym fair because it's an actual word, but that's Super Smash Bros. That's not Super Mario 3D World. That's why it's called spin attack into power up, not use a spin attack and then use a power up. No, it's not correct English. It's spin attack into power up, and we're using the letters spin, or S for spin, A for attack, and power for power up to create the acronym SAP. So if I mention SAP, I'm talking about this technique where you use a spin attack into a power up. So what you do is you put the power up on the ground, and then you get Rosalina to use her spin attack, and as she's using it, either she or the hitbox of the spin attack interacts with the power up so that she picks it up while she's still gaining vertical speed from the spin attack. And that's especially useful if that power up is the Super Bell, because if there's a low floor, with the Super Bell power you cannot climb walls. You need to be a certain height above a certain height, is that correct? Yeah, you need to be at a certain height above the floor where the wall is in order for you, or technically the character, to climb onto it. So if the character isn't a certain height, it isn't high enough above the floor, they just won't climb. They will actually attempt, in some cases they'll attempt to climb the wall, but they will not actually successfully climb it. So when you use SAP, you're able to get high enough above the floor so that you can climb onto the wall. I know that the time where I used this in World 1 wasn't actually necessary because I'd forgotten how that collectible could have actually been collected without using SAP. And I wanted to avoid using SAP because, again, it is a spin attack exclusive technique. I'm not sure if it can be recreated without the spin attack, probably, but with the spin attack, it's a spin attack exclusive technique. So, again, if you're not Rosalina, if you're not playing with Rosalina, sorry, if you're not playing with Rosalina, then whoever is there, they cannot get the thing that Rosalina is trying to get using Sap. Next I've got the mid-air roll. Mid-air roll is a Nintendo Switch exclusive. Sorry, I'm sorting out my color. It's a Nintendo Switch exclusive technique, and it's very useful in a lot of contexts. But I think that's just a general point. The mid-air roll, it's not really anything in particular. The mid-air roll does give you vertical speed, just a little bit. It's not very much, it doesn't last very long, but you do get some vertical speed. So in terms of advancing to higher platforms, the mid-air roll is just that extra bit helpful for that. Next up we've got the Super Bell Power, which is, from what I understand, it is the most useful power-up when trying to avoid the use of the A button. Its main, you'll see it, I don't even need to explain really, but I guess that's lazy. It's good to, share the passion for what makes it fun, right? So what's so cool about the Super Bell Power? Well, the Super Bell Power allows you to climb walls. So if you're climbing walls, remember walls go along the z-axis, right? So you're traveling upwards. Keep in mind that the z-axis is the exact same axis that you would be traveling on if you were jumping, i.e. that's your vertical speed. Or when you jump, you gain vertical speed, right? But instead of jumping, you can climb along the same axis as you would if you were pressing the A button. So that's a very useful feature about the Super Bell. Unfortunately, if you climb for too long, or if the character climbs for too long, they will start to fall. And so what's quite useful here is if we use a technique that I've described as climb cancelling. What's useful about climb cancelling is that if you press the L button, the character will stop climbing in place, and then I guess you can do what you want next, right? Or something like that. So if you're climbing, you know when the character is going to stop climbing, you press the L button and then go back to the wall again so that you can start climbing again. You can only climb twice, and the second climb doesn't last as long, so once the character has climbed the second time and you start struggling, that is it. You cannot gain any more vertical distance, but it is significantly more vertical distance than you would get from a jump, so it's still really useful. And you probably see that power-up used a lot more than Rosalina's spin attack, which I'm not sure if I was surprised about when I first started doing this years ago, but that's not really important. What's important is that climb cancelling is your friend when trying to avoid the use of the A button, and so is clawing. So clawing, that's how it's described in the game. Like the spin attack, well, it shares a lot of perks with the spin attack. So it does also have an extended interaction hitbox, and that interaction hitbox does extend above Rosalina as well, in the context of Rosalina, but also anyone else. So again, if you are below a green star that you are standing too low to reach, you can use the claw, or the character can claw and pick up the green star that way, which is nice because if Rosalina's not there, it doesn't mean that you can't pick up the green star, for example, because someone else can just do it with the Super Bell Power. Whoa. So that's nice. When airborne, it's good for maintaining momentum and vertical distance. So if you, again, when you're trying to cross a gap, wonderful. Let's say use a lot of horizontal speed, or you generate a lot of it by sprinting, and then you're trying to cross a gap, you can then, once you become airborne, you claw in the air, which you do by pressing the Y button but not holding, you just press it, the character will remain, as far as I'm concerned, they remain at the same altitude that they were already at prior to using the claw. So that helps you stay, as high as you can before you need to get to the next place. And then like with the spin attack, you keep whatever, I don't actually know how much momentum you keep, but you do keep quite a lot of it. So I don't really know what I'm saying. We'll leave it at that. You'll see the stuff used anyway, so don't worry about that. I'm just giving you the overview. Quite a long overview, isn't it? Koopa Troopa shell entry or enter. The Koopa Troopa shells are quite a handy tool whenever they do appear. The entering bit isn't as useful, but you do get a small bit of altitude when you do enter the Koopa Troopa shells. So if there are small ledges ahead, you can just enter the shell, and from what I remember, the character holds the shell in their hands, and when they enter the shell sort of gets moved slightly upwards from where the character is holding it. So if your character's arms holding the shell are sort of level with the platform, then the shell will go above that level. So if the platform was level with Risling's arms, for example, and now the shell is above it, then you will get above that platform, which is useful. And we've shortened that to KTSE for Koopa Troopa Shell Enter. K, Koopa, T, Troopa, Shell, S, Enter, E. Then there's Koopa Troopa Shell Dismount, KTSD, and when you enter, with KTSD, you exit the shell with vertical speed, so that means you go high, and you actually go quite a bit higher too, so that's quite nice. But when you do exit the shell, you also get pushed back with horizontal speed away from where you were facing, away from where the character is facing. So if Risling is facing north, and then she exits the shell, she'll be pushed southbound, away from north. I guess that's the easiest way I can phrase it. So when you're using KTSD, I don't even need to talk about that. That's it. It's just that you get vertical speed quite a bit, which is quite nice. But the speed is directed away from the direction that the character is facing. When you exit the Koopa Troopa shell, you're not able to move, or the character's not able to move, because they are spinning, and they're having a good time doing it, or something like that. I don't know, but that's what the character's doing. So while they're spinning, they cannot do anything. And I do not believe there is any way to... Actually, there is one way to cancel the spinning animation, which is actually the next thing that I've listed, and that's an enemy bounce. An enemy bounce, I may have briefly mentioned this already. When you land on an enemy, you do get to jump a little bit upwards. As I said before, this is not an A-press jump, it's just a jump that happens when you land on an enemy. You bounce upwards, and so that's why I've called it an enemy bounce. You could call it an enemy boost as well if you want to. So, enemy bounce. I should know, I don't have to know, no I don't need to know this. I was going to say extended A presses stuff, but that's not really relevant for World 1, so I don't need to go into that. How enemy bounce and KTSD are related, we'll look into that a little bit later. It's not really too important for now. And the touch cursor is the last thing I've noted. You have to press, I think it's the L button to activate it, or I think it's the R, I think it's the R button to activate the touch cursor, which allows a hand to appear on the screen, which can do a few useful things that we may get to. So I don't know how much of that will be truncated, but that doesn't matter. We'll look into the levels and see how those techniques, and maybe some others if I haven't mentioned them, are utilised, or can be utilised, because not everything gets covered in these videos. So if we have a look at World 1-1, you do have to press the A button to enter levels. But we're not going to look into that because that's granted. I can't see any workaround for pressing the A button to enter levels or to even switch characters, although switching characters can be avoided. I did have this sort of, I guess, fun theory, which is that there are ways to switch characters without pressing the A button, but that is incredibly luck-based. So to get a perfect ABC run that involves switching characters would rely on luck, and so you probably have to splice it. But that's separate though. So we're not counting A presses for anything that doesn't involve helping Rosalina play on the course or any other character. But there are so many different ways to categorize how you handle 0 times A for Super Mario 3D World that you can make what you want. So we're just looking at the individual levels. World 1-1 is not a tricky level from memory, but I'm just going to look at everything that I can see from the gameplay that was recorded early in the month. World 1-1 has a lot of clear pipes, and you just enter them and they just take you places. So there's not really much of a gimmick. Now, this session here involves Rosalina without items, and if you were using the Super Girl, that you wouldn't have the sort of issues that Rosalina's having here, where she's having to use the spin attack and the mid-air roll to advance upwards. She doesn't have much leeway, but as we said, the mid-air roll does grant Rosalina a bit of vertical speed, so if you pair that with the spin attack, she can get high enough to get upwards. That's quite nice. I don't even think she needs the mid-air roll. No, that's for the fence bit. The fence bit, that's separate. So you can, if you're a cat, you can just use the cat ramp on the side, but Rosalina can advance using the spin attacks and mid-air rolls. If she positions herself correctly, controlling her controlling her horizontal speed is quite important. And with characters having so much horizontal speed in this version of the game, it can be a bit tedious, but it's not impossible. So Rosalina can advance up to the clear pipe cannon, which if Rosalina is not here, you would need to avoid this, because this whole area does not have any places where Rosalina... Actually, it does have a place where Rosalina can become airborne, and that is exactly what she's exploiting here. And there is this little platform with a little step that's really just a slope, as far as I can tell, and then where the slope ends, there's just exposed walls, so I guess that allows her to fall a little bit and become airborne. And when she's airborne, she can use the spin attack, which gives her vertical speed. So when she pairs those factors together, using the vertical speed from sprinting, she can get across. Catching the rabbit, this rabbit's not very fast, so that's not too difficult. But as a solo player, Rosalina doesn't have much chance against the stump, because she doesn't have anywhere to gain vertical speed. I have questioned whether she can get it with a boomerang flower, but you don't have the boomerang, you don't have access to the boomerang flower at this point, so you would have to go out and get the boomerang flower and then come back to even try, when then whether or not she can do that is questionable, because when you exit the pipe, you don't have control over, I guess, Rosalina's movement. So you can't make Rosalina move forward, backward. She just falls and jumps out of the pipe. As normal, I suppose. She can throw boomerangs in this state, but she can't change where she's facing until she lands on the ground. So if she's not facing in a useful direction, I don't think she's getting that step on her own. And she's not high enough to enter the clear pipe. So I'll leave that one for now. But if anyone finds something, that would be great. The third green star, she can just drop down beneath the rock blocks to get it. Spin attack helps, but she doesn't need the spin attack. I don't even think you need a mid-air roll for that one. And then she can use the clear pipe to get to the part of the level with the, what's it called? The goal pole. But unfortunately, getting to the goal pole is not very simple without a press jump. Rosalina, because she can sprint and she has the vertical speed from the spin attack, she can use that momentum and vertical speed combined to get her to the goal pole. She can't reach the top of it this way. I've had an idea where she uses sap to put out a super bell and then climb high enough. I don't know if that will work. That'll be quite interesting to see if it does. I don't know if she can reach the top that way. But that covers 1-1 with no A presses. She can collect all the green stars, but she can't get the stamp and she can't get the top of the flagpole. I haven't noted whether she can get the top of the flagpole unless she can, because I guess I'd always assumed that most of the time you wouldn't be able to do that. I guess because when I started trying this out, the levels that I was presented with didn't really allow for easy ways to get to the top, so I just assumed, okay, we won't. So percentage completion, I'm looking at the green stars and the stamps, so there are 4 collectibles there. So since only 3 out of the 4 can be collected, I've noted it as 75% for Wild 1-1. But 0 A presses. Whether you're going for collectibles or not, that's good. Wild 1-2 is the next level. So immediately you have a Koopa Troopa shell, and we did mention KTSD. So you can rebound off of the Koopa Troopa shell, because remember, you, why am I describing this? I already explained how it works. But you exit the Koopa Troopa shell with horizontal speed opposite to the way that you're facing. So if Rosalina hits the pipe, not the golden pipe, she hits the pipe and then exits the Koopa Troopa shell, she will then have speed going backwards towards the pipe, so then she can enter it. And that is the power of KTSD. That can be used throughout the level, and there are other ways to get through the level, of course, but KTSD is your friend. KTSD can be used in a lot of instances here because the floor is quite low in some cases. Rosalina doesn't have any problems getting the first green star. Rosalina also doesn't have any problems getting the second one either, no. Because once she gets into the mystery house, mystery box, she can just the way she does it is funny, and the green star falls onto her. So she doesn't even need the spin attack. The funky bit about 1-2 is when we get to the last section of the underground area after the clear pipe canyon, because you've got this, I don't know how to describe it. It's like a pit. It's not a bottomless pit because you're at the bottom, but it's a pit, and there are no places to gain vertical speed. I don't think so. I'm thinking about the Cooper at the top, but I don't think that'll work. With no ways to gain vertical speed, how are you supposed to get to the next area? All there is there's a question mark block. I don't even know what they're called, because it's like it acts as three items, but it's just one singular block. It's a very interesting concept that I think they introduced in Super Mario 3D Land. So you have that, you have some hidden ones, and then you have a clear pipe. I don't know how Rosalina is able to enter the clear pipe, but she is. I believe the input is to hold up when you're near it, something like that. Might be a 45-degree angle, but Rosalina gets really close to the pipe, and then depending on how you're tilting the control stick, she will enter it. She does need to be tall enough to reach the pipe, and so if Rosalina is in the cat form, she will not enter the pipe, which is a problem because then you have to press the A button. So if you are in the Super Bell at this point, or if the character you're playing with is in the Super Bell at this point, your only way out is to have a fire flower in inventory so that you can increase your height again. Once you get into that clear pipe, it's not so bad because you do have a Koopa Troopa shell here, so you can use KTSE or KTSE to get across. And then you have the green star there with Goomba Tower, so that's not too hard. Well, yeah, I guess there are a couple ways to do it. So if you're Rosalina, you can just use the spin attack. If you've got any offensive item, well, I guess all the items are offensive, apart from the super mushroom, and I guess the double cherry, but those aren't really items that you would get in this level. So those aren't items that you can, well, the super mushroom, yes, but the double cherry, you can't keep that item, and take it into other levels, or you can't keep the power and take it. So either way, the Goomba Tower you can take out in a number of different ways, don't need to worry about that. The tricky part, I suppose, it's not too hard, but it's getting the stamp, because the stamp is up at the platform above, and so you need some way to get vertical speed, or just vertical distance. I suppose you don't really need a lot of vertical speed if you're using the Super Bell to climb up. Here you can see Rosalina using sap, because I forgot how I used to get. I've gotten it before without sap, but this was recorded after a long time tackling these levels, so I'd forgotten what you could do. You can use KTSD, rebound off of the wall, and then once you use KTSD, so let's start that again. You use KTSD technically, you enter the Koopa Troopa shell, then you dismount it, but you dismount it as you hit the wall, or Rosalina hits the wall, so then Rosalina gets pushed back, but then she gets pushed back towards the wall because the wall's pushing her forward. But then the shell is conveniently located at the wall because that's where you left the shell. And so then Rosalina can land on the shell. That gives her vertical speed. And so if she has the Super Bell power at this point, she can cling onto the wall and climb up the wall, which is very useful because now she can get to the stamp area. There are a couple of things she can do here. One, she can get the stamp because I'll get the scene up because I can't see it yet. Now I can see it, and what Rosalina can do is she can let's start it again. What Rosalina can do is she can climb. She can use the ledge so that she can become airborne and just climb into the pipe, into the clear pipe. Or she can use KTSD, hit the wall and then exit right next to the pipe so that she can enter it, get this done, come back out again. Now remember what we said about KTSD onto the Koopa Troopa shell. If she does that, at this point she could also climb all the way up to, I don't know if she can actually get inside the pipe to World 2, but she can at least reach the general area. Whether she can or not is something I'd have to actually try out and see. I haven't done it yet, but it's not really important. So now I'm looking at the clip where Rosalina is trying to reach the goal pole with the super barrel. She can do it with the spin attack, but with the super barrel she has to be careful because you have this fence here, and if you... how it works is the fence is too close to the edge of the platform. So if you're a cat and you climb up, I could be wrong because it's like this fence might not be, sorry, it might be far away, it might be too far away, but if it isn't too far away, what will happen is Rosalina will climb up the wall, but then she'll start, I don't even know how to explain it, it's just her character model's too small, no, too big, sorry, and then the space that she's trying to stand on or walk on's too small. So if she tries to walk, she'll keep walking, get pushed off, I guess by the wall, is that what happens? And then because she's moving forward, she's able to get back onto the floor again, but if she gets pushed out, and then it just keeps happening, and if you don't move at all, she'll just fall. It's quite a tricky maneuver, so what you need to do is not have Rosalina in that small space, so then she can actually do the jump off of the wall, not the A press wall kick, just the jump after you climb the wall, so that gives her vertical speed, and then she can use a claw or airborne to redirect whatever speed that she has horizontally to get onto the fence. The fence is quite small, so you don't have a lot of speed. You can't build up a lot of speed, but the speed that you can build up is enough to get onto the goal pole. Not onto the top though. Whether she can get to the top, I can try looking into, but that's not what this is about. This is just showing what at least I know can be done without pressing the A button. And then, because now you've seen it, you can do your own research if you want to, you know, progress from these discoveries, I suppose, whatever you want to call them. We just progress, it's all about progression. So this is what we've done so far, and you can continue the legacy if you want to. Next up is World 1-3. World 1-3 is an interesting level. So this level is built around the Super Bell power, so that's quite nice, but the first green star is not quite nice in this context because you have to climb a tree to get it. Not you have to, but you're supposed to do that. You're supposed to climb the tree, and once you reach the top of the tree, you can't do anything but go back down, because to jump off of the tree you have to press the A button or the B button or equivalent, so actually getting the green star that way doesn't work. So originally you may have to find a workaround if that's possible. As for the second green star, getting into the area isn't a problem. With Rosalina, she can... okay, this is interesting. Remember we said climb cancel? She did that here. She doesn't have to, I don't think she has to, but she did that so that she could drop where she wanted to drop, and then claw at the power block to destroy all the blocks. Or she could not destroy the power block, she can still get in either way and get into the area with the green star. But to actually get the green star you have to land on the P switch and she doesn't have anywhere to get vertical speed to do so. So that green star I can't see Rosalina picking up anytime soon. So that's where more research may be necessary. Getting the stamp's not hard, it's just sitting there. It's already sitting, but it's just in the air, waiting for someone to grab it, or maybe it's not because, I don't know, is waiting like a human concept? So if the stamp isn't a human, it doesn't have a brain as such, then the stamp doesn't really wait for people to do anything. That doesn't matter because Rosalina is going to continue to climb Mount Beanpole. This mountain with a lot of super bell trees or bell trees, I'm not quite sure what they're called. Climb cancelling helps get up without Rosalina struggling, so that's nice. It's not, I don't really think it's necessary at this point, but it is helpful. Here's the next roadblock. It's this cat tower. I think it is actually called a cat tower. So Rosalina can activate the cat tower because it's designed for cats to activate it. But what you're supposed to do is jump onto the cat tower and climb. But if you can't jump onto it, how are you supposed to get to the wall? So what Rosalina does is she goes to the wall below, and then she pops up. That gives her some vertical speed, and then she claws while in mid-air so that she can redirect her speed towards, not her vertical speed, redirect her horizontal speed towards the cat tower, and that way she can climb onto it. But climbing up all the way, at that point she can't do that because she's already climbed once to get to the to get that vertical speed. She had to go down to that wall, and then she got the vertical speed, moved to the cat tower, so this is her second climb. She doesn't climb as high this time, so there's no way she'd be able to make it all the way up to the cat tower, so then the cat tower would fall, which isn't good because you can't climb it. So what Rosalina can do is, using the extended hitbox of her claw attack, she can get to a particular side of the, I'm not sure what this thing's called, but it's like a cat, I think it's called a cat wheel. Because she's low, she's on the side of it that's still considered a floor, but it's lower, so then when she claws, she's able to hit part of the wheel that clawing would activate the cat tower. I'm not sure if I understand how to explain that part, but as you see, it does work. It would be nice to be able to explain it a bit better, but I understand how it works at least. It's just a case of hitboxes extending and using the move that you're intended to use, but in an unusual place. Now, if Rosalina doesn't fall too far, she can climb onto the cat tower while she's airborne from the cat wheel. We've got this other tall platform here that she can climb up using its wall, and then she can go onto the cloud cannon and shoot up into the bonus area. I do apologise that my explanations are suboptimal. Now, these bonus areas are really fun. We'll be visiting them a lot and having various problems with them. Now, I haven't historically had problems with them because Rosalina, with her extended hitboxes, can pick up the green star with spin attack. Now, if you're not Rosalina, good luck getting the green star, but I'm not sure she can get it there anyway because there isn't anywhere I can see her getting enough vertical speed in the right place to get the green star. So as far as I'm concerned, that green star is Rosalina exclusive, which is a bit problematic, but we'll just leave it at that. At least we can say that she can get that green star without pressing the A button, which couldn't be said for the second one, and we have been able to say with the first one. But as we can see, Rosalina is going back to climb the wall again, even though she's already picked up the green star. That is the third one. That's because the first green star that we skipped, we said she can't get it because she can't climb the tree. but the tree is significantly lower than the Rosaline is at the moment, trying to climb to the very peak of the level. So the idea that I had was, if Rosaline is able to position herself right and then use a claw dive, perhaps she could land on the green star. The problem with the claw dive is, it's actually not a problem, it's a benefit, but you have to use it correctly. She's falling, but she's not falling as fast as if she was just naturally airborne. So she falls slower while using the cat dive, or the claw dive. It's called a claw dive, and that's useful because even though she's really high up, if she doesn't use that, she'll fall too much, and then she won't get the green star. So using the claw dive is integral to getting this green star, if it can be gotten at all. But again, you don't want to release the claw dive too early by releasing the Y button, because then she won't be high enough. You don't want to release it too late, because then she'll be too high to get it. So you have to be just right, and you also have to know exactly where the green star is in relation to where Rosaline is claw diving from. There's a lot of there's a lot of precision basically. I need to improve. I don't really talk, I just react to things, and so trying to be cohesive with my words is a little bit difficult, but that's fine. What we know is that Rosaline has to be precise with her inputs and with her actions, and if she does it just right, she can actually get that green star. Whoa. I did try getting this one years back, and it was frustrating enough that I gave up. Well, I guess frustrating enough because I was impatient, you know? Well, we came back to this after years of trying. In other words, we didn't try for years, and so I guess we had a bit more optimism. Let's just see if it's possible. We're just here to document what we can. If we can't, it takes too long, fine. We'll just go to the next level. And then she got it, and I couldn't believe it. It was crazy. It felt crazy that she was able to do it. I knew that she could in theory, but theory and practice aren't the same thing, so it's nice to see that she can get it, which means she can get 2 of the 3 green stars, and she can get the stat, so that's 75% again. Whereas 1-2 with the KTSD, that one was 100%, but she couldn't get the top of the goal pole. Here we haven't seen Rosaline get to the goal pole, so now we can go and look at that. It's a little bit tedious, this one. This is another bit where back when I tried years ago, I struggled and then I was impatient and gave up. What's really helpful to think about here is how to use your speed, and just, I guess, the relationship between distance and speed. Because if Rosaline becomes airborne when she's further away, she'll need more speed to reach that desired location. So even though, from our perspective, Rosaline is sort of around the same point, I guess, along whichever axis it is. Sure, it would be the x-axis, right? Yeah, it would be the x-axis. She's along the same point, but then what she does is she sort of crosses diagonally instead of going straight towards the goal pole. And so to do that, she's travelling a greater distance than if she were to just go straight forward. And so that decreases her chances of reaching the goal pole. So to get to the goal pole, you have to be fairly careful. But she can do it. She can do it with the spin attack, but she can also do it without, which is more useful for if you're playing the game from the start, because Rosaline has lots of playable characters. So being able to do it with the Super Bell is great, and without Rosaline. I haven't tested it with other characters though. But I'm assuming with them being faster, I'm not sure about Toad, but with them being faster, it shouldn't be much harder. If anything, it might be a bit easier to reach the goal pole. I think that was the case with 1-1. I tried that with Mario to get a better time reaching the goal pole with the Super Bell power than with Rosalina, because she's slower. So now I'm going to look at 1-4. 1-4 is a Plessy level. And at the beginning of a Plessy level, your job is to jump onto Plessy. Well, not your job, it's Rosalina's job. Rosalina is the one riding Plessy. Is there any way to get vertical speed to jump onto Plessy without using an A-press jump? I'm very doubtful, at least if Rosalina's on her own. So that's one A-press already. Advancing through the level, you would notice that a lot of the green stars were designed for you to jump with Plessy, which I think is good game design given that Plessy is a unique character and functions a little bit differently, but because Plessy's gimmick is jumping, well, like this level's gimmick is jumping with Plessy and controlling Plessy, it makes it such that you can't get any of the green stars, which includes the second one, which is at a split path, where you have to choose between the stamp and the green star, which I do find to be a fairly troubling mechanic, because it does mean you have to pay a level twice. But if you are going for a 5-star safe route, you do have to pay a level twice anyway, so it's not really a big deal if that's what you're doing. But if you're only going for 4 stars, then you do have to pay a level twice, and so I guess that consumes a bit more time. But this decision tree here is really important. As we know, if you go to the left, where the green star is, you do have to jump. But unfortunately, if you don't jump, there's a bottomless pit, so then you lose Plessy and you lose Rosalina, so that's not good. You're going to have to start at level again. I can mention that the Wii U, not the Wii U version, the Nintendo Switch version does allow you to keep whatever you gained before you lost your life, unless you exit the course. So I guess through some technicality there are some collectibles that you can probably get by doing that. It's not how I prefer to do things, because I guess I've grown up back when games didn't autosave like that, and in the original version of this game you couldn't do that, so I guess I prefer to be traditional in that sense. But that doesn't really matter here, because the other path doesn't have a bottomless pit that you have to jump over. Instead it has 2 fences, and I'm going to assume that given the other path had a mandatory jump, I just said to myself something along the lines of, I said something to myself along the lines of, let's go to the fence and see what happens, and see if Plessy just gets pushed all the way along the perimeter of the fence and then falls. Because if that's what happens, then we can confirm that. Actually yes, because I guess I'll play through the level and confirm, but I think if you take the right path, you only have to press A once, because there's only one bottomless pit, or it's that there's only one bottomless pit that requires an A press to get over. But here you have 2 fences, so if Plessy gets pushed along the fence and just falls, then you need to press you have to press the A button twice to get past this bit, and that's not really helpful. So I decided to have Plessy go into the fence and see what happens. As it turns out, we heard the click, didn't we? I'm watching the video just to see what goes on. Yeah. As it turns out, Plessy can go straight through the fence, which I didn't even need to say which. That's it. Plessy can go through the fence. So because Plessy can go through the fence, it means that you can get the stamp and you can get through both fences without having to jump. So that adds one collectible out of the 3 that you couldn't get, so that's 25%, but you've also saved at least 1 A-press. So that's great, except you do have this clear pipe. You have a regular pipe to go into, so it's another A-press because I don't know how Rizzling is meant to get vertical speed to overcome that. So that's two A-presses, 25%. Whether Rizzling can make this without the spin attack, I'm not too sure. I don't think I've tried it, or if I have, I don't think I got very far. But at least I can say that Rizzling can clear it with the spin attack. So at least with Rizzling, it's 2 A-presses. But I guess if you don't want to add extra, you don't want to add more than 2 presses, you can go and clear a different level instead, because 1-4 and 1-5 are on the split path, so you can choose between the 2 levels. And we're going to look at 1-5. Although now that I'm saying that, I actually would not advise that you pick 1-5 over 1-4, because 1-5 is quite a bit of trouble to get through if you're not pressing the A button to jump. At the beginning of the level does require an A-press jump, unless you can find a way to levitate Rizzling. Not quite sure how to do that. So that's 1 A-press already. The rest of the level, well, not the rest, it's just this bit. At least let's just start with this bit. Because once again, seemingly there's no way for Rizzling to get vertical speed, and then she needs that to get onto at least one of the switch panels. You do have this remote block which does give you super bells, and we've spoken about how super bells are great for vertical distance if there's a wall and if she can be airborne. In this case we do have this area here where there is a wall. It's not a very large one, so you have to be careful and make sure Rizzling actually does have enough speed to reach it, and she does have a place to be airborne at the bottom of this pit, so she can use that to become airborne, climb that little bit of the wall, or I think she can reach the fence itself. I think so. Either way, she can use that to get up onto these arching fences. You have to be a bit careful to maneuver around them, because there is a wall hitbox blocking Rizzling from casually walking up the arch, because it is quite a steep arch. So at the beginning it's a wall and then it becomes a floor. It's sort of the angle of the surface dictates whether it's a floor or a wall. I'm sure it's the same as Super Mario 64. So because it's an arch at the start, it will be very steep. Steep enough to become a wall, but then as the arch flattens out it does become a floor, so then that's good. If you can get onto the floor bit of the arch, it's a little bit tricky, but you can do it, so that's great. But you do want to be on a good side of the arch, if that makes sense. If you're on the other end, then you have this other wall blocking you. I'm not sure if you can do anything with it, but I'm not going to go into that, because if you're on the arch, you can, let's see here. Yeah, now she's quite high up. If she uses some cat claws, if she uses some claws in mid-air to sustain some vertical distance before she starts falling, she can get onto this bit of wall over here. It would be nice to use this curtain, but that curtain doesn't seem to class as a wall. Not sure what it's classified as, but it's not something that Rizzling can climb already on. So if you try climbing on that, you're not going to be able to advance, so you do have to get past the curtain. A bit troublesome, but at least we can say Rizzling can do it, which is great. Again, some climb cancelling helps. to get to the switch panels, and then it's not too hard to navigate through this bit of the level. Now we do have these, what are they called? Jump panels. The jump panels, I didn't know that I didn't know that you could activate jump panels using the touch cursor, but it turns out that you can, and that's great because, well, one, they give you a lot of vertical speed. Well, they give Rosalina a lot of vertical speed, but also navigating through this area without the jump panels, especially getting the green star in this area, is quite tricky. So the luxury of the touch cursor is nice. It would be nice to say that you can get the green star without the touch cursor. I think I've done it, but I don't know if I've got any records of that, so whether we can say that the green star can be collected without the touch cursor, I guess that's something open for someone to find out. Not open for you to find out, I suppose. But we'll leave it at that as Rosalina advances to the next difficult area. So first she has to activate all the switch panels. Once she's done that, we have what I keep calling a bridge. I guess it is a bridge, but the whole area is suspended in the air, so what bit you classify as a bridge depends on how you see it. There are two ways for Rosalina to get across here. She can do it with this, just notice the potential another way that she could maybe do it. I never really thought about that. I'm not sure she could do it. It looks really difficult. I might try that a bit later. But previously the only method I've really considered is that she clings onto the small bit of wall that, like I said, this thing's suspended in the air. There's a bit of a wall hitbox that she can climb up, that's great, but then she's got this fence with all these lights and she can't walk past them, at least not very easily. So it's a series of climbing the wall and then dropping down to climb it again, using the vertical speed to get past all of the lights. And like with 1-3, I tried this years ago and I gave up, because it was a lot, given you had to do all the stuff with the arching, I don't know, gates, I suppose, the arching fences. It was, this level did take its toll on me, but it's fine, because we can say at least that you can get past both the floating bridge question mark and the arches, and you can do it with without spin attacks. That's great. It's something that you can do before you unlock Rosalina. And so I guess if you do need an extra A press for the pressing goal pole, then you can do this level instead. And so far we've only accumulated 1 A press to the potential 3 of that level. I did mention the potential other technique to get past the bridge, but I'll have to try that out because I haven't considered it until now. That's the nice thing about recording. Recording the videos, you do get to see things from a different perspective, and you don't have that time limit saying to you that you don't have a lot of time. So from a puzzle solving perspective, getting to watch a recording of the gameplay allows you to watch and see things from a different angle, be a bit more inquisitive and not feel so pressured, and even pause and look at individual frames to help you get an understanding of what's going on. So yes, Rosalina can clear the bridge with the super bell, or without. With the super bell she does have to climb this wall, it seems. I'm not sure she can do it without doing so, but actually, yeah, if she goes the other way, I don't know if she has the same access. Look at I think it'd actually be easier for her to do if she went the other way, because that bit of the wall sticks out a bit more, so she doesn't have to climb from the side. And climbing walls from the side, I guess climbing walls with the camera being forward facing, you're on the side, or Rosalina's on the side, it can be quite tricky to climb walls like that. So if you want to save yourself some trouble, crossing the bridge on the other side might be a bit more helpful. And then you've got, well, with Rosalina, if she's in the if she's in the cat suit, she's fine, she can just climb the walls, but you also have the touch panel, so that helps. Getting the second green star is simple, because it's just inside this crate. And then getting the third star. The third star is just there, like the other stamp that we said was waiting for Rosalina. And this green star is just spinning around, so you can get that green star. It's not too hard. And speaking of stamps, actually before we even get to stamps, like, which, unless you can build enough speed to get across, there's nothing you can do but press the A button to shoot Rosalina out of cannon. So that's 2 A presses, but it's 100%. The video title says it's 100%. But yeah, she got the first green star. Yeah, with the touch cursor, she got the second one in the mystery box, the third one isolated like that, and then the fourth one. Got the fourth one, the stamp. She just climbs up the wall to get it, and then because she's so high up, she can get to the top of the balcony. So that's nice. You can get the top. You can get to the top of the gold pole, and you can get everything. But I guess you can. Well, no, because if everything else was 0 times A, you actually could get the top of the gold pole without pressing the A button. And that doesn't matter. 2 A presses for 1-5 as opposed to potentially 3 for 1-4. Also, you get more green stars this way, so maybe 1-5 is better, but 1-5 is harder to complete than 1-4. So I guess it depends on whether you really need those green stars or not in an 80% playthrough. Now the last level of World 1, as I've been talking for over an hour, I'm starting to feel it. It's also getting a bit dark now, so that's probably why my eyes are a bit tired. But regardless, the last level of World 1 is Wonder's Castle. This level is really simple. It's so simple that it's like... I don't even know if I should show the stuff, but I think I'll show it for fun, because some people want to see how it's all done, and that's nice. Although the videos are there, so you can see the full gameplay itself without me talking over it. But it's still nice to see how the green stars are connected. The Super Bell does a lot of work. You don't actually need the Super Bell to get... Do you actually... Wait, you do need the Super Bell. Okay. You've probably seen it already. We used the Super Bell to get the first one. You could probably do it with Rosalina without, but Rosalina isn't unlocked at this point. And that green star is really close to the ground, so you don't even have to claw to get it. That's nice. The stamp, simple. You can kick it, roll into it, etc. So getting the second green star definitely involves becoming airborne above a bottomless pit. That's fine, because there are plenty of different ways to approach that green star. The third green star is a deep attack, so there's no problem for Rosalina, as she can claw at them or use a spin attack. A bit of technicality here, getting to the side of the wall to get past the rock blocks, because as much as you can destroy the rock blocks, you can't jump over the ledge that they're blocking, so it doesn't really make a difference if you destroy it or not. And the Bowser fight isn't too difficult, because this fight is not designed for you to press the A button. Question mark? Actually, I think if I'm looking, that it's like further up. I actually didn't mention this before. when I was talking about this level. Further ahead, it does look like there are some gaps. I think you can, like there's some pits, not bottomless ones, but there's some pits. I do think you can climb the side of the wall again to try and advance, but it does get a bit technical if you take too long with the Bowser fight. So, greater knowledge about how to defeat Bowser will help you in the character you're playing with clear the Bowser fight without having to press the A button. But once you do that, you enter the mystery, you enter the warp box and you enter the area with the gold pole. Grizzly doesn't even try to avoid pressing the A button because she knows that this castle is bordered, I guess for safety reasons, right? But it does mean that you have to press the A button to jump and get to the gold pole. That does mean you can reach the top of the gold pole if you're a cat. You can probably reach it if you're Rosalina without a cat as well, so that's very trivial. But that is the first world completed. As far as I'm aware, the only 8 presses that we actually needed were in the last 3 levels that we looked at. So if you're completing all 3 of them, you're looking at a total of 4 to 5 A presses. 4 to 5? Would it be 5 to 6? It'd be 5 to 6, wouldn't it? It'd be 2 for 1-5, potentially 2 for 1-4, and then 1 for 1-castle, which is a total of 5, 2 plus 2, and then 4 plus 1. But if the goal pole of Plessy's Plunging Falls requires an additional A press without risking a spin attack, then it would be a total of, was it 6? Yeah, 6 A presses, so there'll be 3 plus 2, which is 5, and then 1. So, I think that's it. I don't think there's anything else for me to note. I do have this summary thing in this document. It says for World 1 with only 1 player, Rosalina can clear World 1 80% with 3 A presses, which is correct because, like we said, she can approach World 1-4 or 5 and clear it in 2 presses, and then 1-castle only requires 1, so that's a total of 3. I guess collecting as much as you can out of all the levels. It says 83% asterisk. That's probably, I guess, you do however many stuff she could get, and then you divide it by the maximum amount of stuff that she could get. So that's 4 by each level, right? Because there's the stamp in it, 3 green stars. So there are 6 levels, right? Not including Charging Chuck. I don't think this document includes Charging Chuck. I can't, no, it does not. So that would be 4 times 6, which is 24, so whatever she can get out of 24. That's how you get your percentage. Well, that's how I got the percentage. It says 4 times 8, but I don't know why it says that. I don't know why it says 4 times 8, it'd be 5. If it's all levels, it'd be 5 times 8. Because like we said, the 2 from the 2 levels, 1-4 and 1-5, and then the castle's an extra. So that'd be 5 A presses. 2 players, seems you can do the whole world with 0 A presses, which wouldn't surprise me, but I don't have anything to show you about that, so that's World 1.